Opening. But moving on now, every business starts with an idea. Now, not really conceptualizing an idea per se, but design is really, really important when it comes to your business. And so this is what we're speaking about right now. We're talking about the business of design. And here to give us a bit more tips in terms of what design entails and how that actually influences and impacts your business is Michael Kiruthi, who's a design director at White Collar. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, let's talk about design. What is design?
Most people would define design by aesthetics, what you see. But actually, design is, by the words of John Maeda, the design head at Rhodes University in USA, right? He says design is a way of thinking. It's how you think about solving problems. And that's the best way to define design, by the problems you solve, not by just how it looks.
How important is design to a business?
Quite important, I mean, because it defines how your customers look at you, and the way you solve your problem is the key. I mean, every business has a purpose, what it's trying to do, and design helps you get there in a better way.
And to what extent would you say that design really shapes and forms customers' perceptions towards a business? Does it play a role?
A huge role, because as all the thinking that you do behind the scenes, you know, consumers and customers, your target market won't see that. They'll see what you present to them. So you design not only from the aesthetics, but how you think about how they approach, let's say if you're designing a website, how they approach the website. Is it easy to navigate? How your logo looks, you know, how your advertising looks. Does it speak to the right person? Like you could have something very premium, but it looks cheap, and now you won't be communicating to your target audience. So I think it's very key to have design play a huge role, especially from the start of your business.
What's a good design, would you say? What are the characteristics of good designing?
Good design. I think the best way to define good design is what Dieter Rams did. He's a Swiss designer, very prolific. I mean, he's influenced the work from Apple to all other guys. So he says good design is simple. It's not hard, and it doesn't try to be overly showy, and that it's invisible. It doesn't, like you don't, good design is like salt, you know. When there's too little salt, you notice. When there's too much salt, you notice. But when it's just right, you'd never know there was any salt put into it. And another thing is innovative and helpful. If your design is not trying to do anything new or innovative, it's not good design. That's what I'd say. And also, I'd say one of the things you need to consider, especially right now, is your design is environmentally friendly. So the way you've designed, does it cater for the environment? And it's from the small things, from printing more paper to less paper, you know. What kinds of materials are you using? And what are you doing basically with your design?
What do you take, looking at it from a strategic perspective, at what point as a business owner should you involve a business designer or a logo designer, and what is the process as you go through designing options?
So the problem most people make is they put design at the end all. When they've done everything, they've thought about all the processes and what they want to take to the consumer, that's when they'll bring design on board. The best place to bring design is when you're ideating, because then your designer can be able to think about certain things that you wouldn't know about, you know, color theory, and what that does to your consumers, the way you package, where are your consumers, because those are certain questions that you can help him in the later processes. So what we usually do at White Collar, with the magazine and with other things, is we start at the process with looking at who are we talking to, or rather, what are we trying to do? You know, once we define what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve, what is our goal, we can then move on into the process of now ideating. And after ideating, we bounce ideas off each other, see who our target market is, what we think our target market is. And after that, consumer research. Because you may think you know, but as Chris Doe says, you don't know what you don't know. And the only way you know that is to go out and ask people, okay, what do you think about this? What does this communicate? And being able to find your research. And then after that, coming back, drawing up a brief from your insights. That's now the strategy part. And then letting that guide you into budgets, timelines. You decide what tasks each and everyone has at White Collar. And then now you prototype and ideate and now roll out.
And finally, what advice would you have for young upcoming designers? What advice would you give them?
I'd say for any young upcoming designer, the 3 things you have to, I call them C. What you need to do is C. The first thing is strategy, focus on your thinking. Like, let every idea come from a thought, not just aesthetics and what you want it to look like, but what are you trying to do? Empathy. What does your client want? What does your target customer want? That's a really important question. And finally, experimentation. Be comfortable failing and failing consistently. I mean, Steve Jobs says, stay foolish, stay hungry. So experiment, keep yourself humble, and you know, keep fighting the good fight.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I love that. Those were such good tips. And we've been speaking to Michael Kiruthi, who's a design director at White Collar, and he's been speaking on the business of design. Now.